Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. It's the first touch, strong connection. It lays deep in your soul. Feel the kindness strongly coming. 'Cause you can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road. Let's hit the high road.
Hi, this is Nancy Earl, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I have an astrologer here today. Laurie Farrington is here. And Laurie, welcome to the High Road.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
No, I'm happy you're here. I haven't had an astrologer here in a while. You guys, she's written a book, How to Read and Interpret a Birth Chart. And this is really near and dear to my heart because I love the stars and the moon and the sun, and I pay attention. But this is a guidepost for understanding your natal astrology. Okay, you guys. And I actually gave Lori my birthday and everything so she could do mine. But I've been working, I think a lot of people, they go online and they put in their information, but then they don't really know what to do with it. So Lori's here to guide us, you guys, and that's what this book is all about. Now, let me give you a little information about her. Laurie Farrington is the founder of Astrolore. Okay, she's been studying astrology since early childhood, and we're going to ask her about that. She began her professional practice more than 30 years ago. Laurie is a master astrologer, consultant, writer, teacher, and a mentor. So, with a focus on empowerment, self care, and personal growth, she has worked with thousands of clients over the years. I guess I want to hear your story. You say you started as a child. How did this start for you? I need to hear your story.
Well, it's interesting because I'm a lot older than you are. And when I was a little child, we'd go in the grocery stores, and there was always this rack right by the checkout that had these little tiny booklets on astrology.
I remember.
Do you remember
Yes,
those?
I do. Yes, I
Well,
do.
as a child, I was mesmerized by them. I was mesmerized specifically by the symbols themselves. And I just had this, like, I remember the first time I saw them, I was just like, what are those symbols? I have to know. And, I lived in rural Vermont. There was no internet, there was no information.
Mm.
And yet I would beg my mother until she'd buy me a few of those little books, and I would memorize them. And I just spent, from then on, I was just on a search to understand those symbols. And it became an absolute obsession, which I'm so grateful it did because it has stayed with me. I've never lost that obsession. And I'm just so delighted. One of the things, this book specifically, I wrote this book as a few different things, but for one thing, it was the book I wish I had had.
Right. A guide. You needed a guide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I initially wrote it. I didn't even realize I was writing a book. I was kind of writing lessons for my students. And at some point, things changed, and I was introduced to a publisher and realized, oh, I really can make these lessons into something that could go beyond my students.
Yeah. You say you began teaching astrology at your dining room table in
Mhm.
Vermont in the 1990s. I think that's awesome. So people gathered. I love that. And they came and you taught. And, it's interesting because what I found interesting in your book is there's so much information, understanding the houses. I guess we've only got, a certain amount of time, but that's been one of my thing, is understanding the houses. And I pulled my chart and you pulled my chart. Explain when people say, oh, well, this is in your fifth house, or this is in your 12th, or you're a 12th houser. I think I'm a 12th houser or something like that. What does all this mean?
Well, let's see. There's so many ways we could go with this conversation. But the
Okay.
first thing I would say for people, if you are getting your chart information
Okay.
off astro.com or some other online way of getting it, you are probably getting the default which is a Placidus house system. If you
Mhm.
don't know what that means, you don't know what that means. But what I can say is if you go into the preferences on astro.com where you get your charts and
Mhm.
change the preferences so that you're getting whole sign house system,
Whole.
not equal sign,
Okay.
whole sign. You
Okay.
have to get that, and that will simplify and clarify your houses in a way that it'll be a lot easier for you to learn and understand.
Okay.
And I grew up on Placidus house system. There's nothing wrong with it, but the whole sign is just, it's a cleaner system and it's much easier to learn. It's much easier to teach. And you don't, believe it or not, you do not lose anything. You gain a lot of clarity.
Well, but what
So
you, yeah, well, I didn't want to interrupt your thought, but what you say in the book, what really struck me more than anything is that people are using the internet and they're not getting down the basics of really learning. This is what I got from what you said, is that they're not really learning the nuts and bolts of it.
well, what people are learning, and there's nothing wrong with what people are learning. I want to be really clear about that.
Yeah,
But there's four branches of
right.
Western
I
astrology.
read that in your book. Yeah.
And the one that people are learning on the internet is called mundane astrology. And that's, so many people now, they follow the moon phases. They
Mhm.
know when there's an eclipse. They know when,
Yeah. Yeah.
all these different things. They know when Mars goes retrograde or Venus goes retrograde.
Right.
And they learn a lot that way. But
Mhm.
when they look at their own natal chart, that's a whole different branch of astrology.
Okay.
That's natal astrology as opposed to mundane. And it's, if you take that mundane, what you know about what's going on in current time up there, you take one split second out of that pattern in the heavens and print that pattern, that's your natal chart.
Mhm.
And understanding that is very different than understanding what's going on today, what sign the moon's in today, or, and people get confused.
Well, it's really cool though. I will say this. I have the moon on my phone because I'm a manifester. And so I want to know when the new moon is so I can manifest. Now, I've learned that, over time. I think a lot of people or somebody will say, "Oh, well, this didn't go right. All our computers and everything are off." Well, we're in Mercury retrograde. I think people know that. But isn't that exciting for you to know that people know this now?
It is really, it's amazing.
I know.
What people tend to learn through that
Yeah.
understanding is they tend to learn quite a bit about what the planets are about and what
Hmm.
the signs are about. And
Hmm.
what the one of the big pieces that they're missing about their natal chart is the houses, like you brought up.
Well,
What
yeah.
are
Talk
the houses?
about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, if you take that moment of time that a person's born and put it on a flat piece of paper, it will be divided up into houses. Each house represents a different area of our lives.
Okay.
There's a house that's about the self. There's a house that's about relationship. There's a house that's about home and family, a house that's about career, one that's about creativity, etc. There's 12 different houses.
So when I was born, on my natal chart, what is stands out? Like what house? I guess, do you understand what I'm asking you? It's kind of a roundabout question, but what am
Um,
I supposed to be focused on, or what was my natal chart? I'll just ask that
well,
question.
we really, one of the first
I'm the
things.
guinea pig, you guys, just so you know. I gave her my birthday, so I'm just curious how the hell this works. Because
One of the first things that you can
yeah,
look at with, you don't have to know much of anything. Get a few keywords about what each house is about, and
okay,
you can look and you can see what house your sun falls in. And for
okay,
you, using whole sign house system, your sun is in Aquarius. It falls in the fifth house. And the fifth house is really about, it's where you give love.
oh,
It's about giving of yourself.
okay,
And when I say giving love, the old time astrologers would talk about that house as the house of children, love affairs, and creativity.
yeah,
So those are kind of, if you think about that's, love affairs is that period of time where you're just pouring yourself out onto another person. You know, children, when we first have our children, they are an act of creative
Yeah,
love.
they're such a joy. They're a joy.
Right, right.
Right.
And you know, having the sun in the fifth house is a beautiful place to have the sun because you learn the most about who you are by through your creativity, whatever that may be, whether it's children or falling in love or
Well,
being a creative person.
yeah, and I'll just say that I have had a lot of different relationships, but the true love I found was with God, with the divine spirit. That's where I found love. And it took me my whole life to get to that point, you know?
Isn't that
So,
beautiful?
yeah, it's the truth. That's the truth. So it's interesting that you would say that.
Yeah. Well, you have a very spiritually based chart. You can see that in the moon is conjunct Jupiter, which the moon is our emotional nature. It's what we need more than anything else.
Okay.
And the moon in Pisces is about the need for transcendence.
To raise your vibration, to connect
Right,
with God.
right.
So that's what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's what you need.
It's what yeah, because yes,
Yeah.
yes, you're right. You're
You
right. You're
and
correct.
Jupiter is right there with the moon, and Jupiter, it just expands whatever it touches. And these planets, you know, I can look at the aspects, the relationships between the different planets. There's a lot of information here that makes it very, very clear that that spiritual piece is huge in who you are and what you're bringing to the outer world. Your career path, vocation, your social reputation, that's how you are seen in the world. That's how, you know, it's really important that you move more and more toward that direction in what you bring to the world. That's
Mhm.
a beautiful chart.
Thank you. Well, I just wrote this book on angels. I'll say it while we're in the midst of it all. It's a guide to angel communication and spiritual law, and it's how to connect to God, to the earth, and to the angels. It came out in December. So that's my little plug for my book. But yeah, that's what I'm doing. I'm connecting people to God because I think we've lost our connection. So that totally makes sense.
And that's, you know, it's so interesting because you know, Nancy, you might not feel it, but you're very young.
Oh, well, thank you. Oh, good.
You know,
Yeah. Thank you for saying
astrologically,
that.
well, what I'm thinking as I'm looking at it is you've kind of reached your, not necessarily reached, but you are clearly moving in a very clear direction that your soul is here for a lot sooner than a lot of people do.
Okay.
Yeah, the when I look at the chart, I can see, you know, what your soul's growth, the direction of your soul's growth, and putting out a book like that, doing a podcast like this, your work is already involved in the direction of your soul's growth, which many, 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 I would say most people don't reach till they're in their 60s.
I am in my 60s.
Oh, well, you're in your young.
Bless you, bless you, bless you. Yes,
Well,
it's
I
been
think
this
this says
long.
more. I think this says more about my age than yours. I think I'm still in my young
I
60s.
do too. Now I'm going to just say this because now I've told my age. But here's the thing, I don't feel my age.
You
And
don't look it either.
I don't think you do either. I mean, and that's part of this. But I will say it's really interesting. We pay attention. I pay attention to astrology because I believe in the stars and everything. Now, I want to hear your take on the age of Aquarius.
Mm,
Because this is, and
oh
I feel like
dear.
yeah, it's our time, it's my time, it's the world's time. We're elevating. I feel good about things. I feel like the energy's good. I want to know what you think about this whole deal.
You might not like my answer
Oh, that's okay. I want to hear what you say.
because, oh, and I don't have the amount of information about this that I would like to have to approach the conversation. But the ages of astrology, uh, there is so much conversation right now because Pluto recently moved into Aquarius.
Right.
And people are talking about that as being the age of Aquarius. It's not. It's
It's
not.
not. It hasn't
It's not.
happened yet, right?
No, it hasn't happened yet. The ages are not related to the transiting planets. And
Okay.
I can't really give you a solid answer on exactly what, and there's not an exact date when an age shifts from one sign to another.
And why do people keep saying this is the age of Aquarius? And I keep thinking it is. I'm a little confused.
Because people are a little confused.
Okay, so straighten
People
this
are
out
people
here.
are making that assumption. You know, it's an easy assumption to make. I
Okay.
thought that for a long time until I started kind of digging into it, and I wish I could give you a clearer answer. But it's not the age of Aquarius.
Not
That
yet.
does not mean that we are not, as a species, changing and growing and transcending in certain ways. You know, that doesn't mean that. We are right now in a profound time of change. Profound. I mean, we don't have to look very far to know that. We can look in ourselves, we can look at what's going on around us, and we know we're in a profound time of change.
I have another question for you.
But the age of Aquarius, that's the only thing I want to push on.
Okay, you're not sure if it's time yet or not. How do we know?
Well, yeah,
How do we
I
know?
will I'll send you some information about
Okay,
that
send me some information. Uh, what was I going to ask you? I'm losing my train of thought here. Shoot. All right. So we're raising our vibration. Do you feel like, what do you feel, or what do you see astrologically for humanity right now as a whole? Do you see, I feel, okay, I'll tell you my intuitive feeling. I see a lot of people are waking up, a lot of people are raising their vibration. We're getting there. We're starting to create heaven on earth, but it's going to take some time. And I think we have to go through we have to hit rock bottom before we can come back up. But I think the more of us that connect to the divine, connect to the earth, then we kind of help that vibration go out and everybody
Absolutely.
starts to connect. So that's what I'm thinking on
Yeah.
this.
I think that, we are Uranus, the planet Uranus is actually the planet that I think of in terms of awakening.
Okay.
And Uranus has been going through the sign of all of the outer planets. The really slow planets are the planets that are connected with the big changes that affect all of humanity.
Okay.
You know, the moon, the sun, those are more personally based. The outer planets really impact us on a cultural and, universal level. And all of those outer planets are changing sign very close to the same time. So there are so many profound changes. Uranus has been in Taurus for many years. It's about to move into Gemini, which is really going to awaken our ability to really see each other, I think on a very
On a
direct
soul level instead of
on an intellectual level initially.
okay.
I think, Pluto moving into Aquarius, it might not be bringing us into the age of Aquarius, but it is profoundly changing us. It is profoundly, what Pluto's job is to empower us. And I would say that empowerment is on a soul level, on a very deep, profound level, that its job is to empower us. The difficulty with Pluto is if there's something in the way of that empowerment, it's going to be destroyed.
Mhm.
Pluto's going to sweep
Wipe it
off
out.
the
Yeah,
table anything that's in the way.
yes, yes, I think that because I've experienced it myself where, even through family, and I want to say this for everybody because a lot of people think, oh my gosh, they're family and you're not supposed to have this happen. But I've had it happen a lot with family where, you have to cut them off. And it's not a cruel thing, it's not a mean thing, it's, save yourself kind of thing. And
2008 for you is when you started doing that, I bet.
I I don't know, but I've gotten rid of a lot of people. And it's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? And Year Out was my married name. And somebody said to me, "Oh, you're out," meaning that
Hmm.
that's when I
Yeah, yeah,
switched. That's when I
yeah,
switched. Because
yeah.
yeah, that's when I switched and started taking people out of my life who were not benefiting me. And the reason I'm bringing this up into the audience is it's not a bad thing to do this.
Right. It's necessary.
It's inevitable, and that's what Pluto is helping us do.
What was
What was
that?
that? I don't
No,
know.
that was kind of
Is
interesting. I
that
don't know
God
what it was.
speaking?
I must
I didn't do
be.
anything. Oh my
I
God.
didn't either. I don't know. That was very strange. But yeah, I mean, when I look at Pluto destroys things in order to make space for something new.
Right.
In approximately almost 20 years ago, Pluto moved into your fourth house, which is home and family. Time to do a major
Yeah.
reconstruction in order to empower that part of your life. Right now, with Pluto moving into Aquarius, it's gone into your fifth house. So this is a time of empowering your ability to give love. And
Yeah, and the world
anything that's
needs
in the
it.
way of that is going to have to go. If there's anything left in the way of your creative outpouring of love, that's what you are about for the next 20 years.
I'm here to teach about love. I'm here to teach humanity about love. And I know that. Isn't that crazy that I know that?
Oh,
Yes.
and it's so clear in your chart. It's so clear. Yeah.
I'm here. Yeah. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And it's taken
Yeah.
me all these years, just so people know, it takes a long time. And everybody goes through this stuff that we go through in life. I just want to say this. And it's nice to have a chart. It's nice to have someone like you who can do our birth chart and give us a little bit of peace and comfort because we're just learning, and I think people forget that sometimes. They're like, oh, why did I have to go through this? But everything is just getting you to that next, step, to that next level, right?
It takes a long time. I mean, like I said, with that, the discovery of your soul's purpose, the real clarity in it takes 60, 65 years for most of us.
Wow.
And it's not that we're not doing anything. We're building the pathway. We don't even realize the pathway we're building, but we're building that pathway over time. And when I work with people's charts, it's really fascinating because I usually don't tell them anything that they don't already know.
Yeah.
It's a
The
confirmation.
confirmation.
It's
Yes.
like, oh, I thought I was crazy my whole life, but now you just confirmed that this is really my path.
Well, yeah, and I saw that in your book when I was reading about, because I had my chart, and you guys in the book, you can read about your sign and your house and all different things like this. She puts it all together for us. If you're really into doing this stuff, this is a guidepost for understanding your natal astrology. So, I mean, it's really a good book. How I'm sure you've had wonderful reactions so far from
Oh
that.
yeah. Yeah.
I bet.
I love that book. I'm working on my second book right now.
Okay, and what's that going to be?
It's about relationships,
Okay,
how to use astrology to understand and work with your intimate partnerships.
interesting. Do
So
you want to
that's,
do any? What?
that's probably the most common thing people come to me about,
Yeah.
specifically. Most people come to me because they're curious, they want to know their path, their struggles, all that stuff. But then after they've kind of settled on that, it's like, what about relationship? Everybody wants to know. And there's so much information in the chart that can really help you understand who you are and what you need in partnerships.
Mhm. We've only got a couple more minutes. I want to know, do you want to give out any predictions for, let's just say for the United States or for,
Oh.
what's coming up?
Mm. I do not consider myself a predictive astrologer.
Okay.
We can see patterns. I can see patterns. What I do know is and I don't think you need astrology to know this. You can just read the news a few times a week and know that the world we live in over the last 20 years is not the same world that we're moving into.
Well,
There
yeah.
are so many changes, and those profound changes that are happening in the world are a reflection of the profound changes that are happening within
Within us.
ourselves.
Yeah.
I feel relatively positive about the future.
Yeah.
I think we have to go through, and this is part of Pluto going into Aquarius, we have to go through some dark times. And
Mhm.
it's not like we have to, pretend the dark times don't exist. We have to work with what we're in the middle of. And, like you're doing, I think for many, many, many of us, our main job as we go into these big changes is just to be a reflection of the love that we have inside of us to bring ourselves absolutely to the table as authentically as humanly possible.
Yeah,
And
it's not right. It's not what we look like. It's our soul. It's our heart. It's our energy. It's our essence.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
We
exactly.
are so beautiful.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things that one of the reasons I stuck with astrology my whole life is that when I work with a chart, it doesn't matter whose chart I'm looking at. I fall in love with that person because as I work with the chart, I see who they are. And
Mhm.
at the very core, people can corrupt who they are for sure. But underneath it, there is so much beauty. And I think that's, working with clients' charts, that's what I want to show people is how beautiful they are.
Yeah. And I think a lot, like you said, confirmation too. How do people get in touch with you, Laurie Farrington?
LaurieFarrington.com is probably the best way. That's right to my website. I'm doing a lot on Substack right now.
Oh, okay. I've never heard of that. What
I
is it?
Oh, I love Substack. It's mostly for
Okay.
writers.
Okay.
It's an awesome platform. I
Oh,
pretty much have stopped working on Facebook and Instagram. It's just too much noise.
yeah, it's a lot, huh?
Yeah, so I stopped doing that. I do have a YouTube channel, which you might be interested in because I do things for the
Okay.
moons. I
And
just
what is
put
your YouTube channel?
It's called Astropath. I do
Okay.
it with a friend, a
Okay.
co-astrologer, and we just put out a video about the upcoming eclipse.
Oh, we'll have
That
to.
yeah, we talk about the eclipse itself, and then we go into, how it's going to impact each person by their rising sign,
Okay.
or if they don't know their rising sign, their sun sign. But
You have
contact
to
me
send
for
me
a
a link. Yeah, you have
yeah.
to send me a link and I'll put it, you guys, I'll
Okay.
put it down there so we can watch your YouTube channel. You guys, the book is called How to Read and Interpret a Birth Chart. It's by Laurie Farrington. I'm pleased that you came on today. I could talk to you for probably hours.
Yes.
I may have a question after the show. You guys remember to pick up my book, A Guide to Angel Communication and Spiritual Law. And if you want a psychic reading, if you want a tarot reading, go to my website, nancyyearout.com. I thank everyone for joining us today. I thank you, Lori, for coming on the show. Everyone have a terrific week and God bless.
Hold your head high, the world is coming. Watch the colors lift your soul. Connect the dots and keep the motion. Can achieve your goal. Let's hit the high road.